Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session on engaging and exciting readers with teaching books. My name is Kym Davick, and I'm joined by my colleague, Crystal Ballard. And
Hello.
hi, we're
Mhm.
here to go through the site with you and show you ways that you can use it and invite you to reach out at any time for additional conversation. So, Crystal, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah. Before we get into any of the details about teaching books, we always love to just show you a resource first so you can see what we have to offer and maybe start from the beginning about thinking how you can incorporate these resources in your instruction. So I'm going to start by searching up here for Nigel and the there it is, Nigel and the Moon. And I'll select it here and you'll see right here is what a page on Teaching Books looks like. We have author, illustrator information, a book annotation, and then a summary of resources. And what we're going to show you first is what we call a Meet the Author recording on Teaching Books. It's like a book talk. It's just a way better book talk than we could ever do because the author is book talking their book. So you get to really hear about the background and the inspiration for the story. And it's a great way to help your readers connect deeper with both the author and the story they're about to hear.
Hello, everyone. My name is Antoine Edie, and I'm the author of Nigel and the Moon, written by me, illustrated by the amazing Gracie Zhang. Nigel and the Moon is a story about a young boy who's afraid to tell the world his dreams, so he shares them with the moon at night. It was inspired by my childhood as someone who was afraid to share his dreams with the world, but also I was inspired by loss. I was inspired by the dreams of those we've lost and those we've had taken from us, especially young kids. I wanted to give them a place where their dreams could live forever. And I also wanted to honor my parents by giving Nigel's parents the same jobs that my parents once had.
I'm going to pause it right there, but what a great, like an inspiring message to start off the book. And I love the idea that your readers will get to hear from that author. They get to hear why he created the story, but they also get to see a picture of him. So they're already connecting deeper to the book, maybe before you've even opened it up. And with that, now
And
we
I
get into some of the details.
Well, and I think this is a great example to showcase too, because it's one of our Meet the Author recordings, and it goes back to the premise behind teaching books. So I just want to share that for about a minute. And about just a little over 22 years ago, the founder of our company was working in a children's bookstore while he was getting his advanced degree in a college. And he saw what happened when children heard directly from an author, and the web was just starting. So he thought, what if we could connect? What would happen if every single reader at the moment that they were reading a book could hear directly from a book creator? How would that expand their experience? And in the element of equity, being able to get all readers and getting authors and illustrators directly in front of all readers, that's how Teaching Books was founded. So every day, that's what we do. We interview authors and book creators to be able to pull these ideas together for your readers. And it's expanded to now our content team um, hand selects and hand adds our resources in, so that when you are coming to Teaching Books, you can come with confidence to know that you're finding quality materials ready to go equitably for everyone in your learning community. That's just a little bit of background. Today, we're going to dive in and start that journey for you so you can see how all these resources will work for you. And Crystal shared that Meet the Author recording, which is just one example of that, of the book creator being able to expand that situation. Crystal, do you want to go ahead and hit the share button? So one of the other components on Teaching Books is that you can share our resources. So when you're signed in as a professional, and you can just do that with your work email, you have all of these tools that will allow your readers to have immediate access. It also will allow you to share resources with your colleagues, family members at home, anyone that you want to give this resource to. So if you want some printables, you can create a shelf talker to have the, out in your learning spaces. You can create bookmarks, QR codes. With QR codes, you can do all sorts of I'm sorry, I got distracted by the waiting room. You can create label sheets, you can create a flyer. You also have the ability to share on digital platforms. So if you want to pop a link right into your calendar item or share it in social media or share it in a learning platform, you're able to do that. If you use that QR code, or excuse me, that URL that's right in the sharing tool, you can do that. Crystal, do you want to go ahead and share the difference between the two types of sharing on this particular resource also?
Yep, and see, if you look up here, you can share with full site exploration or this resource only. So if you share with full site exploration, it will look just like this when you share it. When you share it with whomever you're sharing with, your reader, the community, once they click on that link or scan the QR code, they're taken straight to this page and they'll be able to listen to the author talk about his book and they will not have to log in. If you choose to share it with this resource only checked, the difference is, let me copy this link. And I'm going to paste it in up here. When you share with this resource only, they will only have the ability to listen to this resource. Then they won't have the ability to go and then explore some more. So depending on maybe your lesson time or what you are working on and meeting the needs for, you can choose whether you want them to be able to explore more, like maybe they're the ones who finished their assignment early. So you share this and let them explore. But maybe you just want them to listen to something before you start a lesson. So you're more in a time, you have more of a time difference there. So you need to make sure, so you're just planning ahead and making sure that they have the time to listen and explore.
And I think it depends on the age of your readers too, sometimes, and you know your readers. So some of them, they're distracted by shiny objects. And so you don't want them off. You want them focused on what you want them to focus on. So it's lovely to have that new ability. That's a new feature.
Yep. And that's right here. You can select the full site exploration or just sharing this one resource only.
Perfect.
So before we dive into some more resources, we would like to show you really quickly how to sign in to TeachingBooks as an educator, because once you sign in as an educator, you have the ability to customize and save lists and lessons. So we want to start there because some of the things we're going to show you today, you will need to be logged in as an educator to practice with. So when you go to teachingbooks.net, and for you to follow along, you would just go to www.teachingbooks.net. To sign in, you're going to go to the 3-line toggle menu here, and I'm actually going to sign out so it will look like how you'll see it. When you go to teachingbooks.net, because you guys are IP authenticated, you will probably get in and you might see your district name. If not, you might actually probably see your district name or sign in and sign up. So if you don't see your district name up here in the upper left corner, you'd see sign in and sign up, and you'll select that. If you go to teachingbooks.net and you see your district name, you're going to select the 3-line toggle menu and then select educator login. Here, you will enter your work email. And then if it recognizes your work email, like maybe you've logged in here before, then it will prompt you for a password. If you haven't used TeachingBooks before, it will take you to a quick registration page. There's maybe 4 questions, and then you create a password. And then you'll know you're logged in as an educator. Wow, I'm sorry, this is being slow.
Maybe we shouldn't have had you sign out.
It was better the other way.
The nice part, so right now where it says welcome, and if it will say welcome your district name, that is what your readers see, because TeachingBooks doesn't, we don't collect any student data. So every time they sign in, it's anonymous. And so that's why when you sign in, like Crystal just did now, it says, we know that she signed in because it says welcome Crystal. That allows you to customize and use all the sharing tools.
Yes. And anytime you want to just double check, just make sure it says welcome in your name up here. So now let's go ahead and dive a little deeper, and we're going to really explore some more resources that we have available here on TeachingBooks. I'm going to search by another title. Search for Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. You can see as I start searching, it will look for books, authors, lists, subjects, and then will show results below. You don't have to select enter. You can leave the cursor blinking. It will still be searching. And we're going to select Eyes That Kiss in Corners here. And this looks very similar to, this title page looks very similar to the last one we just looked at, with title, author, illustrator information, and the book annotation. And then we have a summary of resources here. Well, you'll see there's 31 total resources for this title. Here's some featured resources. And then as we scroll down, you can see more information like grade level, picture, what genre, and then cultural experience. And you can even select show more details, and you'll see when it was published, if there's Lexile or ATOS information, maybe AR quiz information, and more subject headings that go along as well. And even further down the page, you'll see accordions with more resources, book guides, activities, lessons, book readings. Let's go ahead and go back up to our original resource and listen to some of this Meet the Author recording. And remember, we call these, they're like book talks, but great way to introduce a title. I'm missing the transcript. Hang on one second. There we go.
Hello, I'm Joanna Ho, the author of Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, illustrated by Zoom Ho. The story was really inspired by just a childhood feeling that I had growing up, that I could not be beautiful because my eyes and my face and my hair and my skin didn't look like any of the examples of beauty that I saw around me in books, where beauty was always described as golden hair and, you know, beautiful blue eyes, or in movies like Disney movies with princesses whose eyes were, you know, half the size of their face. And so I just never thought that eyes like mine were beautiful. I wished that I had different eyes, and I wrote the book partially for my younger self, but for my daughter and for anyone who might feel similarly, whether it's their eyes or their hair or their skin, you know, their body shape, that to really kind of explore this idea of beauty and what it means to redefine what that means, but also to recognize our own power in changing those definitions and therefore changing society.
I'm going to pause it there. Again, a great connection to the author right off the bat, listening to where the inspiration for this story came from. Remember, this can also be freely shared. Here's your share arrow, and you have the same options. There's your link. You can do full site exploration or this resource only. You have your printable options. We looked at a shelf talker. Here's what a bookmark will look like, and I'll show you some pictures of how you can use these as well. The bookmark will bring up 3 bookmarks that are ready to be printed, and there'll be a QR code and a link to visit. And this could be sent home. I love this idea. You could maybe, this might be just a book you're doing as a story time read aloud, and you have bookmarks at the end of the day sent home with your readers. They can go home and scan the QR code or go to the link. They can listen to this with their parents and talk about the story time you did that day. So a great way to kind of connect to not only your readers, but beyond as well. Here's some ideas of how you could use some of these QR code printables. These are in different classroom libraries, just school libraries, in any format you want to choose. Kym and I always say you can even print these and put them up in the hallway, because I mean, if you think of maybe like parent-teacher conferences, a lot of times there's always parents with their kids waiting in the hallway. You could have these up and they could listen to them as they're waiting. Because remember, if you share this with them and you print these QR codes, they have direct access. They don't have to log in. So it makes it really easy and, you know, something to entertain them while they're waiting too. So here's different examples of what those QR codes can look like. Here's some labels, and these are labels that you can place in the books, and then the bookmarks as well. And this last example is just if you did have an indoor-outdoor space and maybe like the library wasn't open or your classroom wasn't open yet, you could have these posted or up so that they can be scanned while your readers are waiting to come in. And again, to get to any of those shareable options, you just go to this red share arrow, and it will bring up the different options you have. There's, you know, the link, printables, and then the digital sharing options too.
If you don't see a shelf talker option, it's because that particular resource doesn't talk. And so that you'll see that, like if you share a whole book page with a colleague, the shelf talker won't come up for that. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
forgot to say that, and it is confusing. So thank you for
Oh, that's okay.
reminding me.
Crystal, you want to scroll up too? We've tried to make the search tool as user-friendly as possible. So let's say that you're you're working with maybe an author study or something like that. So let's search for Kwame Alexander. He's all over my social media these days. So he's been all over the place. And so when we'll find his titles on the left-hand side, and then we'll see him show up under authors and illustrators. And the author pages will all look the same, whereas we'll have author resources, original author resources, maybe interviews with that particular author. And then there will still be some featured items at the top. You'll also notice, though, that we have resources for 22 of Kwame Alexander's titles. And so when you open up that accordion, it will show you all of those possibilities to see the different titles. This is a great time that you can either you could share this entire page. You could start collecting ideas. Maybe you want to create a list for an author study. So in this particular case, you could select the plus icon right there. You'll notice that plus icon is under all of those different titles too. But here, if we were going to do maybe an author study, we would pick and choose the ones that were either in our classroom or in our classroom collection or in our library. Krista, why don't you go ahead and just select them all this time, just so that and then we're going to add those to a list. Let's just say author study Alexander. And now this is a list that we have. If we add this to a list, we have the ability to view it. We have the ability to edit it and take a look at the resources. We can share it as a bookmark. If we just want those resources. It looks like it's being slow again. So we'll just be patient and I'll just talk.
I know,
So
and I did selected it twice, so I'm probably gonna get 2 lists out of
you'll get
it.
2 lists. Yeah, that's what I did earlier today. So let's take a look at the list. You'll see that it is, when it opens up, you'll see that it is, has your icon of where it will be your district icon there. Instead of Discus, Discus will show up. It's in another area when you're signed in as your district, but we'll have resources. You could have put where it says multimedia resources for the titles on this list. You could say, choose one of these titles during our author study. You can edit that and make that be what you'd like. And then you have all of the same sharing tools too. So on the left-hand side, if you want to share that and create bookmarks, you can. If you want to, you can play concentration. There are some games on the left-hand side, all sorts of different ways that you can use this list and all of the resources. If you share it, then the recipient would have access to the 22 resources for the 22 titles. And I think it said it was 600 and some resources. So whether you are sharing one resource at a time, you're sharing all the resources for a title, or you are sharing all the resources within a list, those are within your sharing tools when you're signed in as a professional.
Yes,
Crystal, I leave
let's
the
go find
site.
them.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
I
leave the
was gonna
site and I come back. Where will I find my list?
Let's just say you open the list and you went to open up a book. I shouldn't have done that because it's being kind of slow, but you went into a book and then wanted to go back to your list. You can always find your list under the 3-line toggle menu. And again, just make sure that it says your name up here, because the list won't save if it doesn't have your name. So this way it saves to your account. Go to the 3-line toggle menu and select your reading list. You'll see if there are any district lists that you have, they would show up right here. And then South Carolina list, and the award list there. And then I did make 2 lists. Here's your custom reading list. And you can see there's our author study list here. You can see your options to view, edit, delete, duplicate, but you can also share the list as well.
Nice to be able to save those for yourself.
Right. And share them if, also if you're thinking of like a specific reading list for a classroom or for a library, if you wanted to share a reading list, a recommended reading list, even that could be taken home, it could be in that bookmark format. Or if you wanted to share this, we also have flyers. And I always say, with the flyer, it could be nice because once it opens up, it will say, what the list is. Like this would be the author study, and it will say what's on here and how to access it. But on the other side of it, if you wanted to write a letter maybe to parents and guardians explaining what the upcoming author study is and you know, and just explain what you will be doing. You could do it on the other side of this flyer. These also can be translated. So if you see in the upper left corner, maybe you have an Arabic population, you can translate this into Arabic and print it, and it will translate everything but I think our name and the actual link, but
Yeah,
it will translate into,
we don't want
yeah,
the link
I
to
don't think that would
translate.
work. So
Um,
you can always translate up in, it might either be in the left corner or the right corner, but you'll have the option to translate those as well.
so before we move into looking at some of the South Carolina lists and then browsing the collection, are there any questions so far? Okay, if there are, just pop them in the chat window, and then also we'll also give you information to reach out to us at any time too. It's all included. So now let's go ahead, Crystal. Do you want to go to the featured list? Okay.
Yeah, so you can see here, there's a couple ways you can find the South Carolina list. The easiest way is just to go to your 3-line toggle menu here and select reading lists. You can, if you want to, type in South Carolina at the top, and you'll find reading lists for South Carolina as well. They show up here. You can select see all. And then you'll see all the different ones that we have listed here. So if we selected maybe the Children's Book Award for 22-23, grades 3 to 5.
The nice part about this too is you'll see that some of them have already been updated.
I
So
noticed that
our
too. Yep.
content team does it automatically. As soon as they get the new list, they get updated.
Yeah, so 23-24 was already on here. So this is 22-23. What I love about this is you can filter this. So if you wanted to feature some of these titles, maybe make an interactive display with QR codes or print some bookmarks to try and get some of your readers to maybe just look at these titles and get interested in reading them, you can go over to the filter results over here and maybe look at resource type and think about it like what would get them interested. Maybe you want to look at ones that have book trailers. And if you select book trailers, several of these ones have book trailers, 16 of them have book trailers. You could save this, create a list with, you know, your Children's Book Award books with book trailers. You could save this as your own list. So you have that ready to go, know which ones to pull to attach, you know, QR code printables to book trailers. So you can open up any of these and you'll see that book trailers will sometimes be featured right here. If you don't see it up here at the top, as you scroll down, there is one of the accordion menus is titled book trailers. And this one, actually, you have two options here, the live action or the animated. You could pick whichever one. Let's do live action.
Compare and contrast. There you go, another whole lesson.
And you can play from here. We try with book trailers to embed, if they are on YouTube, we try to embed them on TeachingBooks. So you're not taking out of TeachingBooks to view these. And your readers, if you shared this page with them, they could scan a QR code, you could send the link to them, and they'd be taken straight to this page to view the book trailer. So we just went to the 3-line toggle menu and then your reading list, and we looked at South Carolina lists from there. Any questions about finding those lists?
Let's browse. I love showing off browse because it shows the depth of the collection. So if we go ahead and go to browse, we are able to look in another way at, if we open up See All Collections, we're able to look, where do we want to start our filtering? Do we want to start by a grade band, by a curricular area, by a cultural area, by a genre, maybe by recency, or by a resource type? So maybe you want to see which, let's start with Reader's Theater. So which of these titles on TeachingBooks have Reader's Theater? Well, there are 473, but let's go over to grade level and let's search 1-5. And so all of these titles will have not the entire book, but they'll have a portion of it already prepared for you at a Reader's Theater script. So you can do the same thing. You can look at those that have vocabulary lists, or you can use any number of these. And just like Crystal said, anytime you see that plus sign, either add multiple titles to a reading list or underneath, starting one at a time, you could have a whole collection of titles and that have reader stated scripts. So you could offer those for your readers. They are they're organized by the grade level of the title rather than the reader stated script itself. So that's one thing to know, but generally they're written in a way that makes perfect sense.
And you made me think of one more thing, especially since, we're probably working with some of our younger readers. We do have a collection of storytime activity kits too. So if you're looking for some extension ideas after you do a read aloud, let me just pull up an example then, and we can show you how to get to that collection. For Shark Lady, if we scroll down, and if you're looking for just activities, lessons, lesson extensions, anything like that, if you go to the book guide activities and lessons section, you'll see we have some templates and multi-level lessons that you have access to. And if you scroll down, you'll see more lessons that you have access to. And I was talking about these activity kits are great because they bring up activities that are ready to be printed. These could be sent home. These could just be left at tables if you're thinking about maybe like guided reading groups. But you can see here there's a mix and match activity, writing, drawing activity, a snack activity. I love that one. And then there's even a dice activity, like a dice game. So I love the idea of this one activity kit brings in so many different subjects as far as like cross-curricular teaching right there. Because now we're bringing in dice so we can roll that right into math. I didn't even realize that. But just the idea of being able to do that is great. And you can find the whole collection of storytime activity kits just by typing in story or kit, and you'll see storytime activity kits over here under featured.
And those are generally, Crystal, if you select that, and then we go to the grade bands, they're generally going to be for the youngest readers. Sometimes there'll be some that are a little bit older, but generally they're going to be, you'll see that almost all of them are pre-K2. Do you mind going back to browse for just a second?
Sure.
So if we go to browse, one thing, and I'm probably going to regret this, but could you just choose see all books, Crystals, because it takes a minute and we already had a little bit of trouble, but I think it's really important to see the depth of the collection. And so when we open up See All Books, you'll see all of the titles that we have resources for on TeachingBooks. And it takes usually just a couple of seconds on really good days.
On really good days.
I know. And then, but then it pulls up and you can see then how many pre-K2 titles have resources, how many 1 through 5 titles have resources. And then if you're working with readers that might be 4th or 5th grade, some of the titles in the 4-8 collection might work for you. And so even taking a look at those might be helpful. But it does allow, Crystal, you're going to curse me later, aren't you?
It's just not.
But it
Oh,
will.
there we go.
There we
got
go.
it.
So it's there are resources for over 80, almost 85,000 titles. So Crystal, do you mind opening up the grade level section? So you'll see over 30,000 titles have resources and then 24,000 for at each of the next two that you're probably dialing into for your elementary level students. So I think it's really powerful. And that, to be said, is if it's a book that is being used for instructional purpose as a pre-K through 12, we most likely have it on our site. And when we're doing the help part, we'll show you what to do if there's a title that you're interested in that you don't see.
And we are actually only have about 1 more minute, so we'll dive into help right now. If you are thinking or coming up with questions, you can always visit the help section. First of all, you can always email Kym or myself. Kym can put our emails in the chat. You can always email us. We are happy to help. If you forgot about how we did something today or anything like that, we are happy to help. There are video tutorials here. Some of things that we even covered today. There's an introduction, but creating lists, we talk about that today, or a login. And then if you scroll down a little further, you'll even see these 2-minute takeaways. So if you're diving in and exploring some resources and maybe want to focus more on certain things, these are 2-minute tutorials on how to maybe use our puzzles and games or our multi-level lessons. So it's a very quick tutorial for you right at your fingertips so that you can get some ideas of how to utilize those in your instruction as well.
Thank you so much. Crystal, would you go ahead and put up the survey?
Yep,
And so then we'll go
and
ahead and have you all, if you don't mind,
there we
just
go.
give us a little feedback. Know that we're here to support, dive in deeper with you at any time. We didn't get a chance to look at for educators or teaching ideas. There's so much to dive through. We'd love to do that with you and guide and hear what your goals are. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Whoops, I was trying to copy that link. Hold on just a second. Oh no, now it's freezing.
Let me go back to,
Hold on 1 second. There we go. I'll
oh, there
just
we
do it not presentable. And we can go ahead and stop the recording so that if you guys have questions and want to unmute, then we can go ahead and talk about any questions you may have too.